What is going on, everyone? It is time to take a look at the most violent small towns in America. We all know big cities are filled to the rim with crime, but statistically you have a better chance of being involved in an assault or worse in a small town. There are some amazing quiet small towns in this country. Then you have some that need to be started over. Like mowed down, burnt, whatever, start them over. This list is based on the FBI's 2018 crime data report looking at towns with a population of less than 20,000 but more than 1,000. If you get into the 100s like population, a good bar fight could make it statistically look like the worst place in the country. The FBI defines a violent crime as basically whacking someone, non-negligent manslaughter, robbery, and aggravated assault. There's another word that goes in here, but I don't want to be demonetized, so we'll just call it the unauthorized use of another person's body. I'm not making light of anything, you just don't want to trigger the algorithm. It takes them a couple days to manually review it, and it sucks. Anyway, this list is focused on towns that really aren't in the middle of a metro area, sort of out by themselves. As an example, if you took the City of Industry, it's just mixed in the middle of the LA metro area, and it's horrible, and it's probably worse than most of the ones on this list, but it's also got horrible neighborhoods, so it's like one big mess. These ones are their own individual messes. So if you look at towns with that criteria, you gotta start with Number 10, Henderson, North Carolina. This small town has been around for a bit. Henderson is a community that's very deep in history. It was actually settled in 1785 to be exact. Now, it's not too far from the state capital, and the place sucks. Henderson has a serious problem with violent crime, and that's why it's on this list. At nearly 15 violent crimes per 1,000 residents, it makes Henderson one of the worst places in North Carolina to live. The town had 192 violent crimes in 2018. That should be enough to tell you to stay away from Henderson, but if you still want to call a local real estate agent, you should know that they had a staggering 93 property crimes per 1,000 residents in 2018. This community has some serious issues across the board, including an elderly woman that throws rocks at cars from her porch. A local told me about this. It was great. They said that she used to do it from the woods, but as she got older, she, doesn't hike into the woods by the highway anymore. Now she just hucks rocks from her porch and screams profanity. Henderson has about 15,000 residents, and about 28% of them live in poverty. That is always a factor in a crime rate of any place. Number 9, Columbus, New Mexico. The small town of Columbus, New Mexico shares a border with Mexico, and you don't want to live there. I would suggest not even driving close there. In recent years, Columbus has been a hotbed of organized crime, where there's an estimated 15% of the 2,000 person population may be involved in illegal activity. Serious legal activity, not counting like dudes and Daisy Dukes. We're talking real crime, like drug smuggling. Drug smugglers have made Columbus their home. The town's small police force is scandal-ridden and constantly in disarray, and disarray is being generous. In March, the mayor of Columbus, the town's police chief, and a village trustee were among several city officials indicted for trafficking firearms to Mexico. Like I said, don't move here. The violent crime rate is about 18 for every 1,000 residents. Number 8, Dillingham, Alaska. In 1881, after the United States purchased Alaska, the United States Signal Corps built a weather station near where Dillingham is today. The Arctic Packing Company came in and built its first cannery in Bristol Bay right there in 1883. It's just across the river from the site of modern-day Dillingham. Operations began the following year with a pack of 400 cases of salmon. That's it, not many. By 1903, there was a total of 10 canneries they'd built along the river, including 4 within the current city limits, and produced as much as 1 million cases of canned salmon. Most of these canneries were closed for a variety of reasons, including coastal erosion. And there is really nothing else to talk about when it comes to Dillingham, other than it's a great place to stay if you have a bail bondsman looking for you. Oh, and one other thing. They apparently don't mind assaulting each other. They have just over 2,000 residents, and last year, 38 of them were assaulted in one way or another. 19 violent crimes per every 1,000 residents in Dillingham, Alaska. I can't think of a reason to move there, honestly. I mean, you also got to worry about being trampled by a moose. That's a real worry in Alaska. I kid you not. Number 7, Lumberton, North Carolina. The city of Lumberton was created by an act of the North Carolina General Assembly in 1787, so it's been around a bit. Actually, Napoleon was 18 when the place was settled. The town was only 20 years old when he started wearing his hat sideways. What I hate about this place, and yes, I've been there, it looks like a really nice town. Homes are well maintained, streets aren't dirty for the most part, they have an incredibly green building. The place is nice looking. They just have crime issues that nobody can fix. In Lumberton, 35.1% 50% of the population is living below the poverty line, and they have had serious drug problems for years. Between April and June of 2017, 3 young women were murdered in the same area. Nobody's been arrested. They don't know what's happening. The overall crime rate in Lumberton is 51% higher than the national average. There's 22 violent crimes for every 1,000 residents in Lumberton. Number 6, Doniphan, Missouri. Doniphan is in the middle of freaking nowhere, but about 2,000 people call it home, and they don't really seem to mind, I guess. They don't really seem like they're leaving. They don't lose people, they don't gain people, they're just all the same people. It is in between St. Louis and Memphis, almost the same distance, with St. Louis to the north and Memphis to the south, so if you decide you need to get to the nearest big city, your choices suck. Doniphan doesn't seem much better. Its suckage is just at a smaller scale. Google the place. They got flooding, buildings being set on fire, and 6 idiots that are like in their 50s assaulted some dude that assaulted one of their friends or something like that. That's something high school kids do. But they're in their 50s and decide to do this. The bad part of it, they didn't know what they were doing, and the guy didn't make it through the assault. That's just one of the many weird stories about this place. They have 26 violent crimes for every 1,000 residents. Remember what I said about starting a town over? Number 5, Osceola, Arkansas. Just up the Mississippi River from Memphis, Tennessee, you have Osceola, Arkansas. Here's the thing with Arkansas. If a city or town isn't in the northwest corner of the state, chances are you're risking your life visiting any town or city. That part of the state is great. The rest of it is always dangerous. Sure, you can find the occasional gem, but most of the places are dangerous, like Osceola. Osceola has more than enough violent crime to go around. Recently, they had a police officer indicted after shooting 2 people during a traffic stop. And in 2017, an officer that had been suspended 4 times, fired, rehired by the Osceola Police Department, accidentally shot a 16-year-old she was chasing. It's just not safe in this town. They have 26.5 violent crimes for every 1,000 residents in Osceola. It's like they're trying to catch up with Memphis or something like that. Number 4, Espanola, New Mexico. It is believed that the town that began as Espanola was named by rail workers in the 1800s. At the time of the railroad construction, a small restaurant in the area was nicknamed La Española. This was because of the large presence of Spanish women in the area. You see, they didn't speak the language really well. I think they thought they were saying something else. Anyway, about 10,000 people call this northern New Mexico town home, and they probably spend a lot of time locking doors and researching security systems. I don't want to make it sound like this place is dangerous, but there were safer beaches on Normandy. This town appears to have never left the most dangerous towns in New Mexico lists since they started making lists. They had 306 violent crimes in 2018. That gives them 30 violent crimes for every 1,000 residents. Number 3, Estill, South Carolina. The town of Estill is located in the southern half of Hampton County. Estill was formed in 1900 when they needed a rail line between Augusta, Georgia and Savannah, Georgia. Upon the construction of the rail line, the new town of Estill was incorporated in 1905. Now, if you want to have some fun, well, it's not really fun, it's kind of gross, Google Estill crime. People appear to be getting shot every single weekend in this town, and I think it's one dude, I really do. His police sketches all over the place. I texted a friend who grew up in Hilton Head, South Carolina. It's another world away, but really it's an hour away. I asked him if he knew anything about this town, and his response was, I try not to. Then he texted me back, what the hell is going on in Estill that you're making a list about? I said, violence. He said, oh, well, they got that. He said, the town is like going back in time to the 1940s. The only thing that doesn't look like it was put there in the 1940s are the cars and what people are wearing. He said everything else is just like it. Buildings that have been standing too long and too empty, he said it's just a nasty place. Anyway, these people are big into hurting each other. Not all of them, obviously, but they have a good amount of idiots here. You know, in the South, you're always going to have a large majority of a town they're good people. They're good family people. They're good to each other, but for some reason, these towns always have these idiots in there that just make the whole place look bad. It sucks. Anyway, they have 34 violent crimes per every 1,000 residents in Estill. Number Number 2, Anniston, Alabama, our old friend. If you're looking for an all-star suckage, look no further than Anniston, Alabama. They appear on all these negative lists about small towns, not just mine, everyone's. I am working on a list currently that's about towns that are losing people that may actually disappear within the next couple, 3-4 decades. Anniston is on it. I promise, no matter what the subject is, if you research worst town lists or something like that, Anniston will be on it somewhere in the top 10. So why don't we approach this a little bit different? I mean, they know they're bad. They know things go bad. All the lists know they suck. Why don't we approach it today from a more supportive manner? So here we go. They know what they're doing, and they are motivated. It's like they're on a mission or something. You go get them, Anniston. You see, they're just in such bad shape. There's no point of just talking about the bad. Let's just all accept Anniston sucks. Their violent crime rate is outstanding. I mean, come on. 37 violent crimes for every 1,000 residents. I mean, that's some work right there. Maybe next year they'll get 40. I hope so. Actually, I don't hope so, but still. And number 1. Kotzebue, Alaska. Kotzebue lies on a gravel spit at the end of the Baldwin Peninsula in Kotzebue Sound. Kotzebue served as a trading and gathering center for various communities in the region. It's on a bay with like 3 rivers flowing into it, so it made it easier for the inland residents to make it to town, hence it becoming a trading center. There is no valid reason to live here other than a court-ordered ankle bracelet. And judging from the stats, I would say there's a lot of those people. So these are the things that you can do if you visit Kotzebue, Alaska. And this is on like websites and travel sites that they have. There's the Cultural Arts Center. Okay, that could be interesting. Fishing, I'm down. They have a hot spring and a nature preserve, both great. And then you could finish up your stay with a visit to the Indigenous Peoples Cemetery. In the center of town, this large cemetery contains many decorative spirit houses that have been built over many of the graves here. You know, nothing's more satisfying than after a long day of not working than sitting on your porch, having a drink, chewing on some whale blubber, and watching tourists stomp all over the graves of your relatives. Sounds like a good time. When these people aren't trying to turn a dime on the back of their dearly departed, apparently they commit violent acts against each other. And not all of this can be attributed to drinking. Kotzebue, Alaska is a damp community. This means you could bring into Kotzebue alcoholic beverages for consumption if it's in properly labeled containers and it's within your monthly limit. You have a monthly limit here, okay? It is a felony offense to manufacture, sell, possess, or barter alcoholic beverages. You can't trade a beer for like someone fixing your tire or something, I guess. Anyway, this year they're projected to have 121 violent crimes. This city barely has 3,000 people. That's about 40 for every 1,000 people in the city. I can't think of a reason to visit this city above the Arctic Circle. They have some wind farms. Okay. I don't know. Stay away from Kotzebue, Alaska. And that should be pretty easy because it's kind of hard to get there. Alright, so that is my top 10 most violent towns in the United States for 2019. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Don't forget all the links below. Subscribe if you haven't. Buy a t-shirt. Enjoy your holidays. Be nice to each other.